You have to hit that button.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. Hello, welcome. Oh, wow. Hi, everyone. Hi, we're just going to give maybe a minute, maybe 30 seconds. We'll just see if anybody else pops in before we do a brief centering, and then we'll go through brief introductions and go through, you know, what's going on with this program. But welcome, thanks for coming. If you guys want, feel free to, in the rename yourself aspect for Zoom, feel free to either add a pronoun if you want, so that if we call on you, you know, we know how to refer to you. Also, you can add like where you're residing right now. That can be kind of fun to see where everyone's at. And your branch.
Yeah, don't forget that. And we do have Mike Burke, who you guys will meet shortly, who's monitoring the chat. So, you know, if you have any questions, just know that you can put them in there too. And we have both Mike and Rebecca that can respond to those too. Okay. All right. So let's get started. And we always like to come together breathing here at Veterans Yoga Project. And I am Jessica Bugbee. I'm an Army combat veteran. And so wherever you are, if it's safe for you to, you know, you can bring your feet firmly planted on the ground, or if you're cozied up on a couch and your legs are crossed, then that's okay too. And if it's accessible for you to close your eyes, if that's within your practice, then feel free to close your eyes, or maybe just send the gaze down towards the ground. We'll just begin to feel that support that you're upon right now, whether it's the chair, the couch, the bed, the floor. You just notice what is here, what is supporting you physically beneath the parts that are touching that support. Maybe it's your feet, maybe it's the back of your legs, your thighs, your back. And then if there's any additional fidgeting that needs to occur, go ahead and allow that to happen. And as you're coming into this place that you're at now physically, and just notice any sounds you hear, maybe through my audio or background noise, maybe any smells, any tastes that are lingering on your palate, and the temperature that is upon your skin in this moment. Come fully into this here and now with us. And as you've now settled into your body and come into some form of maybe stillness, notice the breath, that life force energy that's moving in and out, maybe of your nose. It's always with you, even when we don't notice it. Maybe noticing that breath as it comes in, maybe the back of the throat, maybe filling the chest, the belly. All you have to do is just simply be and notice. And as we've come into some semblance of stillness in the physical body and maybe even in the breath, let's go into the mind for a moment. Anything that's there that's maybe from before, or maybe thoughts of what's to come, just allow them to kind of float away like clouds, and notice maybe finding a place of gratitude. What is it that brought you here? What within you had that desire to be here? Maybe just shouting out to it and thanking it for bringing you here today. Good. One more breath here on your own with this place of gratitude. Know you can always go back to it. And then if you'd like, you can bring your hands into that gesture of prayer, palms together at the center of the chest, and eyes can remain closed if they're closed or open. And let's just seal this with maybe a smile. So take a breath together now. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. Feel free to smile and just notice what that brings upon as you begin to maybe blink the eyes open. You can look around the little squares, and I encourage you, if you're in a place where you can turn on your video, feel free to do that and look around, maybe, wave, say hello to, our community here. Thanks for coming into that brief grounding, centering space. And so thank you all for your interest in Veterans Yoga Project. As I mentioned, I am Jessica Bugbee, Army combat veteran. I'm one of the lead teachers here with the Mindful Resilience Yoga Teacher Training 200-hour. And I will be speaking a little bit more to the application process. We'll take your questions about the actual content and like what is all like entailed with this Veterans Yoga Project 200-hour, after the application process. But I just wanted to introduce to you some people that we could not be here without, and that's Rebecca Smith. And I'll let her come on and kind of give her a little spiel and then pass it away to a veteran of this program and also a veteran of the Army, Michael Burke. Take it away, Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. If I make you dizzy, I just want to let you know that I'm also the admin, so I have my computer right here. I'm so excited to see all of your faces as I look at them over here, popping in tonight, and all of your cameras on. It's really helpful for us to see you and see how you're receiving what we're sending out, because we aren't in person. And really the practice of yoga and passing the teachings down from teacher to student and teacher to student and teacher to student is sort of the classic way to learn yoga. So I really appreciate all of you being vulnerable in that way and turning on your cameras. I am an Army veteran. I live in Connecticut. I'm actually in Florida right now because that's where my folks live. But I spent most of my time in Virginia in the service. And I have been teaching yoga for 13 years now. So I've spent almost 10 years now with Veterans Yoga Project. And I'm so happy to be on the lead instructor team with Jessica and Brianna. This is our third run through of the 200 and our second one together as a team in the way that we are. And now to have Mike, our recent graduate, with a very fancy rank that the rest of us don't have on board as well. If you have any questions about my teachers or the lineage that I do or anything like that, I'm happy to answer them, but I don't want to take too much of your time. So Army, Connecticut, sometimes Florida. So happy you're here.
Well, that's not embarrassing at all, but thank you, Rebecca, for throwing that out there. Yeah, I am actually recently retired after 25 years in the United States Army as well. I decided to, you talk, a lot of people will ask about the program and be like, well, I got all these things going on. Well, I will tell you that I did this program while I was also a brigade sergeant major. So I don't say that to be boastful or anything else. I'm just saying, like, life's about priorities. And if you make it a priority, you can make it happen. It did come at a sacrifice of a lot of weekends. And I'm not saying that it was difficult at times, but it can be done. And what's amazing about it is when you talk about transitioning out of the military, like, what a perfect way to do it. Like, one weekend, with everybody, eating wonderful vegan food for the better part of 10 days, talking about yoga, 16 hours a day, practicing and doing amazing practices. And then literally within a month of that is when I actually stepped out of position and everything else. So it was a really amazing opportunity to do it. But yes, I'm the newest member. I guess of VYP. I'm just handling some of the admin stuff. A lot of you, I recognize your names already. You've probably received an email from me. I'm doing a lot of the administrative stuff kind of in the background for Alex, who's, managing a lot of it and everything else. So as we get going, if you have application process questions, definitely ask them, and I'll answer them best to my ability. But I will tell you that just taking this first step and dialing into this open house to get some questions answered and to show your face is a wonderful first step. And I promise it's going to be an amazing, sometimes a little bit taxing journey, but it is well worth it. And this is an amazing program that in 2023, looking through their curriculum, like, I'm jealous. I wish I could go back through, to be honest with you. It's just that it's going to be even better. And you happen to have Jessica and Rebecca on here as well, who are two of my favorite teachers for VYP.
All right. Well, I hope Mike didn't scare you off 16-hour days. That's, fun as well when we're all together in person. We'll talk about that later. So let's talk about it. So if you haven't applied yet, right? So we'll talk about the application process first. We'll take questions on that, and then we'll move into the actual curriculum. That's probably where everyone's questions are. And so, we'll try and spend as much time as we need where we need it. But with the application process, right? So applications already opened up. You guys have until Sunday, the 19th of February to complete that. So what does that mean? That means the actual application on the website and also a letter of recommendation. This letter of recommendation can simply be an email. And I think Micah or Rebecca, can you shoot that email address in the chat for them? So they're going to do that, but that's where your letter of recommendation needs to go. It doesn't have to be anything like extremely formal. As you can see here, we are, we like our standards, right, in the military, but we also like to have fun. And I think we've learned that throughout the course of our tenure as, veterans, and just as like recognizing that life, we need to also like wear it loosely. So after that process, and just to be completely transparent, pretty much everybody that gets a letter of recommendation in, as well as their application, will move on to round 2. So, that's exciting. Round 2 is a couple different things, right? So you have a background check that's of no cost to you. And then we have verified veteran status. If you were dishonorably discharged, don't worry about it. It's okay. We can, accept you as well. And maybe along the course, we can help you upgrade your privately, upgrade your veteran status. But anyhow, just letting you know that, if you're not a veteran, that's okay too. There's a part for that, but that we will confirm your veteran status if you are claiming that. And then there's a video of intent. And with this video, again, it can be super informal. It can be a video that you take on your iPhone or Android, anywhere from, I think, up to, 5-10 minutes. Mike, I know, will send out more information, as well as both him and Alexandra during that round 2 application process. They'll let you know like what they're looking for, but essentially it's your like, why are you here? Why yoga, right? And why do you want to continue to serve this population? So things that really just probably are simple and easy come through the heart. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Just going to say part of what we did was I actually recorded an example video. So everybody will get the link to that. And it's an example video of what you need to talk about or what you should talk about. And, you know, some of the tips and techniques for the video as well. So if you have more questions after that video, definitely feel free to reach out.
Yeah, that's awesome. We didn't have that last year, but with each year, we're just getting better. You know, we're improving upon things, so we're not staying stagnant. So that's awesome that you guys will have that. So once all of those are submitted, there will be acceptance letters going out on the 15th of March. And upon that, that's when then you'll get documentation, right, to sign about the program. You'll, and we'll talk about this momentarily, but the cost, you guys will determine, you know, how much you're going to pay. You'll set up payment plans if that's something that needs to happen. And you'll go through survey process, right? We like in Veterans Yoga Project, we really like to see how people, you know, what their status is before they really start to delve into yoga. And then where they are, like, for instance, after a practice. It really helps us collect information, helps us know how we're doing as a teacher and what we need to improve on and whatnot. So in saying all of this, I think maybe the only thing that I missed is just one of the requirements is also, you know, practicing yoga for 6 months or more. So if you have all that and you know, stick to the deadlines, then hopefully we'll be seeing you. Are there any specific questions right now about that process?
So I had one person private message asking about if they had their letter of recommendation sent directly from someone else, but the person forgot to CC them, so they're not sure that we received it. If you're unsure about that, you can just email that MRYTT@veteransyogaproject.org email address that I dropped in the comments earlier and include your name and the name of who it would be coming from, and we'll happily confirm for you that we received that letter.
Awesome, thank you. Mary, I think your hand was up first.
Yeah, I have a question. This may be really silly, but who should the recommendation letter come from? Does it matter?
Yeah, so it doesn't matter who it is. If, you know, you have somebody that you worked with in the military that could maybe speak about, like, you know, that service potentially, that would maybe be a really great letter of recommendation, or even a yoga teacher, that could be really wonderful too. If you don't have either, or if you have somebody that just knows you on a different, you know, personal basis, then, you know, go with whatever's really calling to you. So there's no rubric behind who the letter of recommendation needs to come from or what it needs to state, just really about your character.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Hey, Charles.
Good evening. My question was in regards to the letter of recommendation. So a friend of mine, Renner, had actually recommended me to the Veterans Yoga Project months ago, and I've been waiting for, you know, teacher training to open up. But I suppose she's already sent a letter of recommendation. Sorry, my dog is.
That's okay. We accept family members.
So she sent a letter of recommendation for another applicant, and she was not certain if she could send a secondary one for me. So she had wondered about that. So that was my question.
Sure. So my gut thought is, why not? However, I'll just defer to Mike. It looks like he's shaking his head and saying, yeah, that's completely okay. So yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and tell her to send it
no
in.
issues, Charles.
Hi, Renee. And, you know, Brianna will be on here. The executive director will be on here probably around 8:30 or so. And she's also a Marine veteran. So I'm sure she'll be really happy to know that you're here too.
That's great. My Rottweiler keeps moving my laptop around. Her head is really heavy. Anyways,
Oh.
I did not see any Veterans Yoga Project instructors in or near Spokane, Washington. So this is Eastern Washington. I did see one in Everett, Washington. Is
Mhm.
that a problem? I don't want to waste your time.
So I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, but you're not wasting our time. Number one, you would, you know, come through this program, you would be a certified yoga teacher, you know, via Yoga Alliance standards. And then also, you know, Veteran Yoga Project has a Teachers Alliance, which, you know, you go through their training, obviously, our 200-hour, and you'll be qualified. And that's wonderful. No one's near you. So one of the requirements for the program is that you give back. It's approximately, I think, 108 hours now of, you know, volunteer teaching. So we would love for you to come aboard, spread the wealth over there. And actually the director of field operations, I believe, is in Everett, Washington, and that's Monica Thorne. And so you'll get to know her, you know, if you come onto the program.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Renee, I just want to add, I think maybe your concern was that you might not have somebody super close to physically connect with as your mentor. Is that kind of what you were getting at? So it's okay. You know, you'll do what you can with what you have where you are. And that's what we all do, right? We're service members or veterans. And it's excellent to have a teacher in an area that we don't already. So, you know, I highly encourage you to apply, because then you could be those boots on the ground for the next group that comes through. Maybe you start a revolution.
Yeah, and I forgot to look and see. You may have instructors in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, or Western Montana. That would be, you know, that would be close for me as well. So thank you.
Yeah, and to caveat off of what Rebecca said, I was the first one to say caveat, by the way, that our mentors also that are assigned, we're assigning every participant with a mentor, and typically that meeting is done virtually. So it's completely okay that you're not, you know, within driving distance. Yeah. All right. Any other questions about the application process, or are you guys just ready to hear about the program?
How many applicants are accepted? And I would like to be part of the online group. And then I guess there's a residential part of that as well. And I just would like to know more about that. I already sent in my application and my letter of recommendation. So.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Bonnie. So the program is hybrid, so therefore it's approximately 155 hours that are virtual hours. So everyone understands. There's a little over 40, I think 45 hours that are in person, and that's done in Montana. Everything is included as far as, you know, we have a sliding scale for the cost of the program. So you choose that upon acceptance into the program, which, remember, will be made, you know, after round 2 on the 15th of March, and you choose what you pay, and you can make payments based on that. And we have it written out. The 100% program cost is just about $7,400. So that would include, you know, your ticket and travel to Montana and your stay there. However, again, it's all based on sliding scale. So that's, you know, our program is hybrid. Did I answer that question entirely, or
I'll take
Rebecca?
I got it, Jess. So you have to be a part of all portions of the program to graduate as a 200-hour teacher. So you'll have the online live set times that you're expected to be in class. There is a threshold for how many hours you can miss live and how you make that up with watching the recordings of any classes that you missed, and then additional homework that you would do if you're unable to make any of that live portion. You know, we understand life happens, so there is a little bit of leeway there, but it shouldn't be the plan going in. You do have to attend live for the majority of the live online training. We also have a portion that's asynchronous learning that happens between the weeks that we're meeting. So if we meet you know, the first weekend of the month, and then there's a weekend where we're off, and then we meet again the next weekend, you'll have a few hours of asynchronous learning to complete, which will include videos of us talking to you and showing you slides, some reading in your manuals and books that you are given, and it's all included, or some homework that you're expected to write and turn in. And all of that is a part of self-study, which is a huge part of yoga and vital to becoming a yoga teacher. So we do expect a lot from you, but we also are here every step of the way to help you with that. And then the last portion of your hours is that in-person portion in Montana. So if you're not able to attend in Montana, this is not the program for you. Unfortunately, it's not a fully online program. You do have to attend from start to finish. And as Jessica was saying, if you're worried about the in-person portion because getting to Montana is costly or difficult, just know that that's incorporated in whatever you choose in the sliding scale. So you're coming, we want you there, and you have to come if you want to graduate. Cool?
Yeah, sounds fine. Thank you.
One other thing to add to Bonnie that you asked is 25 students will be in the final application. We will accept 25 students for this cohort.
Thank you.
So in the chat, I also added those days that the weekends that we meet live, meaning virtually via Zoom. And as Rebecca mentioned, you know, we understand things come up, especially if you know ahead of time. It would be really, you know, great to get with us to let us know about that. So there's just about 2 weekends out of a month that we meet, and it's for 6 hours, Saturday, 6 hours for Sunday. And we try to accommodate, you know, the time zone, people that are spread across. And then as Rebecca mentioned, asynchronous learning. So that time would happen, we use the platform Canvas, right? So there'll be videos on there, homework that you guys will have to, you know, just apply basically what you learned, so that we understand that, you know, you're understanding and you know how to apply that as well. And that will happen in those in between weeks. And I think there's a total of 9 weeks that are asynchronous, if I'm, you know, saying that correctly here. And as well as those weeks that are asynchronous, you'll have a study group. It's not mandatory, but it is beneficial to pop in. And that study group, we as teachers don't formalize it. So essentially we're there and you guys can ask any questions. We can review anything that you want from, you know, weeks prior or the current week, you know, what's to come. And there's a couple other things that are going to be supplemental to the program, but they're all optional. So if there are specific questions, we can roll into the content. Rebecca, if you want to talk to them about the specific topics that are covered within the 200 hour. I can also speak to that. So everything that I'm kind of going over, if you guys are familiar with the website, and I think, Mike, if you don't mind helping me out and just throwing in that link, okay, cool, to where the application is. On the website under questions or facts, I think it also has all of this information, but topics that we cover very similar to other 200 hours. Although I think with this program, it's more robust because we're, you know, giving you guys more by way of like the population that we serve. But we'll go through the yoga history, right? We'll go through yoga philosophy. On the website, it says asana, right? So if you're not familiar with Sanskrit yet, that is part of the training. We will go through Sanskrit, but we'll also be speaking to the English, language as well. And there's reasons for that, and you'll learn. But yoga, the physical practice is what we'll go through. So you guys will learn many different postures and how those are applied. So you'll learn basic anatomy, which is always super fun. Breath work, right? We have on there pranayama, which is breath work, that life force energy, meditation, ethics, a little bit of like marketing is thrown in there too. And those are the main topics that are covered. Of course, we go into, we have really good topics that are specific to Veterans Yoga projects, such as like our mindful resilience part. We talk about the autonomic and nervous system a lot. We bring in parts of like trauma and how that can be, affecting, someone that's coming into your class. And then we talk about injuries, right, and contraindications to, teaching based on injuries and illnesses that our population would be walking into a classroom with too. Are there any specific questions on content, or either one of you, Michael or Rebecca, want to add to? Sure, Renee.
Kind of an out there question, maybe. Here we go. Do you cover Reiki?
We
No,
don't
Reiki
cover.
is its own practice.
Okay. I'm already certified in Reiki, but I was just curious.
Yeah, so 200 hours is barely enough to teach the foundations of the practice and to feel like you know enough of the foundations of the practice to then turn around and share with others. And as Jessica mentioned, we are incorporating quite a bit that's not in most 200-hour teacher trainings, having to do with that trauma-informed teaching. We're basically fitting in the entire weekend MRYTT. I always mix up the initials, but the mindful resilience training that we do in a weekend is within your 200-hour teacher training. So that's already a little over 20 hours worth of material that isn't in other 200-hour teacher trainings. And we have that slightly extra time in person. We have a few extra hours in person because working with veterans and having that camaraderie is so important. So as it is, we are already bursting at the seams. So there's nothing extra because there is so much already in yoga, so much in the best way. Yeah, and we'll feed it to you. We eat the elephant one bite at a time, so don't panic. But no, there's no time for Reiki.
We do, however, talk about the subtle body and the chakra system. So you get pieces, right? But you're not learning that type of energy. No. Charles.
Hey, so with veterans that have like physical issues, maybe missing limbs or just physical therapy issues that they're going through, is that heavily integrated into the curriculum, or is it kind of part of the curriculum separate from just like a regular teacher training program?
So I'll give my brief information here, but we also have an expert here with us that can speak to that does work, on a daily basis. But yeah, we do. So we give pieces of the mindful resilience training. I believe that's 24, 26 hours, right? So we don't teach that entire thing, that entire training. But what we do is we try to pair that training up, right? So there's an additional training after the 200-hour that you guys, we encourage you to take, and we try to pair it up at the end of the 200-hour training. So you'll be a yoga teacher, but what that training does is that gives you more information, on trauma-informed teaching specifics to kind of what you're asking. But We do teach a lot of chair yoga, and that's not what, most 200 hours trainings, they touch on chair yoga, right, and touch on pregnancy yoga, and we do that as well. But we end up talking a lot about chair yoga because of those specific limitations that you'll see in the population, that we encounter. But Rebecca here is someone that can speak, and before she comes on, as I mentioned, we have some supplemental programs that are going to be optional throughout the training, and that would be a great opportunity for you, for instance, Charles, to come in and say, hey, can you mentor me on this or talk more to this piece?
Charles, you are welcome and you are wanted in whatever shape and condition you're in, as long as you can attend. Okay. So I work in a long-term care and short-term rehab facility on a daily basis, and I do get to teach yoga in there. So I'm super familiar with working with, like, you name it. I have a student who has it. One of my absolute favorite students, why he's my favorite, I'll tell you in a moment, has an amputation and comes to yoga all the time. And I just want to remind you that asana is only one of the 8 limbs of yoga: meditation, pranayama, withdrawing of the senses, concentration, the way that we conduct ourselves, the codes and ethics that we live by, the yamas and the niyamas, those are all limbs of the practice. And so asana in the Western world, the physical practice or that physical manifestation is seen sort of as the practice, but asana is really just a preparation for the body, for the physical, for the rajas and tamas to get out of the way. And don't worry, if you don't know what those are, you're gonna learn. But basically to balance ourselves, to come to a state of being where we can sit and meditate and be present. So there are so many practices in the practice of yoga that have nothing to do with whether or not you can put your leg in a certain way, or if you even have that leg. So let go of that sort of definition of yoga, because buckle up, we're going for a ride, and everyone's invited. As long as you show up, we got you, and we'll figure it out. And if that is something that you want to do, I can be the teacher that you do a little more mentorship with, and I'm happy to do that. And that patient of mine that has the amputation is a veteran of Korea, and he is so cute. And I use the mindful resilience practices with him all the time. And the other day, just like 2 weeks ago, he said to me, for the first time ever, I sent something down there and I got something back. And I asked him, how did it feel? Because that isn't necessarily a good thing, right? So I didn't want to have a reaction until he shared. So I said, how did that feel? And he said, it felt like closing a circuit that I left open for way too long. I feel whole. I don't know how else to explain it. So that's the power of the practices, when you really understand how to carry them forward and how to share them with people. And I hope that for you.
Thanks, Rebecca. That was beautiful. Thank you. Moving on, and speaking about someone beautiful, our number one here, and also, as I mentioned, Marine Corps veteran is here, Brianna. So I will let her say hello and give a little bit of her background. And Brianna, we are talking about content. So if there's anything that you'd like to speak to, please take it away.
Yeah, hi everyone. Oh my gosh, it's amazing to see you all. Yes, my name is Brianna. I am up here in New Hampshire, United States Marine Corps veteran. I see a few Marines in here. Ooh, wow, that's awesome. Avionics, 98 to 2003. I didn't love yoga the first time I did it. In fact, I hated it. It took me several years to really get into the practice. My first class was a restorative class that I turned into competitive restorative, and practiced more with more regularity when I was pregnant with my first daughter, and after my second daughter, had some postpartum depression and practiced even more seriously thereafter. And I started teaching and just held on to it ever since. And that was My oldest is 17, so I've been practicing almost 18 years now. And my youngest is 14, almost 15. So I've been practicing yoga for about 15 years, pretty solidly. I started teaching in the worst possible way. I am a dancer as well. So, you know, I did things the right way. I did ballet first, and then I joined the Marine Corps, and then, you know, yoga. So I was in yoga class one day and someone said, hey, you're really flexible. Do you want to teach yoga? I said, sure, why not? That sounds like the best reason to teach yoga. And I was a terrible teacher. I was not awesome. I started teaching before I went through a yoga teacher training and very quickly realized that I needed to get some formal training. So in 2010, I believe is when it was, 2010, I did my 200-hour in the Kripalu tradition. So Kripalu is a tradition that's part of the Hatha family. Kripalu was actually the first class I went to. That competitive restorative class was actually a Kripalu class. But I really loved the combination of breath and movement. As a dancer and, you know, even as a Marine, right, like that connection really made sense to me. So my 200-hour was in the Kripalu tradition. I did a 9-month practice. So I lived in North Carolina at the time, and I drove to St. Augustine, Florida for over the course of 9 months. It was a weekend, you know, much like this program is structured. It was 1 weekend a month for the 9 months. Graduated and wanted to learn more. It's almost like I dipped my toe and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And once I went through the 200-hour, I realized that, oh my God, there's so much more to know. So not long after that, I did my 300-hour in alignment and therapeutic-based yoga. At that time, I was already teaching yoga to veterans. I had started teaching dance. So I recognized that, you know, there isn't a one size fits all, right? Like we say yoga, and I heard Rebecca say a little bit about this, right? It's a very sort of broad term that there are a lot of connotations around, and that there are a lot of misconceptions around the word yoga and what it is and what it isn't. So my 300-hour was very focused on your body, right? Like not mine necessarily, but your own. And how can I, as a teacher, facilitate a practice for you so that you can hold space for yourself and adapt the practice and understand how to best adapt a practice for yourself. So that was my 300-hour. And I stopped there for the time being. I have been with Veterans Yoga Project since 2014. I started off as a volunteer, and I have grown up with the organization. It's been a true honor to be a part of this organization and to be a part of this work. Our 200-hour program is very near and dear to my heart. I don't know if you guys talked about the history at all, so I don't want to repeat anything, but I love teaching yoga to veterans so veterans can become yoga teachers and teach yoga to veterans. It's the best thing ever, and it's my very favorite thing to do. So it really is a genuine honor to see all of you, and please let me know if you have any questions, if there's anything I can do to help or support in any way. I look forward to it. That's it.
Thank you, Brianna. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys.
So does anyone have any specific questions? We didn't go into too much of, we talked about the topics that are covered. Mike threw in the chat the link for that specific website, right? Where the application is. And if you scroll towards the bottom, it talks about, the cost of the program. We did talk about, I said it's a sliding scale. And so with that being said, right, you choose, what you can pay, and then you can also make payment arrangements based on that.
So what's included in the training is obviously those 200 hours, right? Books, materials. We send you a yoga mat, yoga block, strap, blanket, I think, a bag, and you get all your books, which books can get pretty expensive. So I think there's about 5 books, maybe 6. I could be wrong. Okay, so 6 books. Don't worry, you don't have to read them from cover to cover. We'll give you some, assigned different pages, and also these books became reference material for you. Like, I'm sure Mike's gone to them probably more times than not. Coming up with his own sequences, now and everything else. And I do all the time too. Also, as mentioned, right, we have those 40 plus hours that are in person, which is in right outside of Helena. Am I correct in saying that? Okay.
Yes.
Which is where Feathered Pipe Ranch is. And cool story, I know we're short on time, so I'll be super quick, but Feathered Pipe Ranch is a supporter of Veterans Yoga Project. Actually, Veterans Yoga Project was supported by Feathered Pipe Ranch in its infancy. So it has a lot of, just a lot of good vibes, if you will, right there. And so there it's in the mountains, it's beautiful. And we'll be there for a week together. Those will be long days, as Mike exposed, right, to you guys. But it's a time when, like Brianna said, like, it's just really beautiful to watch. Even if you were private in the Army and you stayed a private till you left, or whatever branch you went into. Sorry, I'm speaking from the Army's point of view. You had some kind of leadership position, right? So at some point in time, and it's just so awesome to be back together with people that you shared. So we'll begin in May, the first weekend in May, and our last weekend will be in September, and then we'll see each other, for that second, or rather third week. Yeah, so the arrival to Feathered Pipe Ranch is the 16th of September, and we share a week there. And it's not all, work. We have some fun too. There's trails, there's massage. You get to do, some different cool things outside as well. But that's what's included, as well as I mentioned to you, there's some supplemental programs like you're assigned a mentor. We'll have the study groups. There's also a couple other things that you'll, be more formalized to upon acceptance into the program. Are there specific questions that you guys have? Or anything that the teachers would like to speak to?
I have a question. I'm just wondering, because I do work full time, how intensive the assigned studies are outside of the weekend work.
Hi, Juliana. Thanks for asking. So as Mike pointed out, he was still on active duty in a not small time role. So it is really possible. It would be a lie to say that you won't have to sacrifice anything. You will, right? It's your personal time. A large part of the practice of yoga and wanting to teach it going forward is self-study. And most of the assignments are really geared towards that aspect of svadhyaya, of self-study, of spending that time with yourself and with what you're learning to truly digest it. So it's hard to put a specific number on it. We have put numbers on it of, let's say, like 4 hours in the time between the weekend that we meet and the next weekend that we meet. Some people will do it in 2 because they've practiced a lot more. Some people have, studied a lot more. Some people, the information will be brand new and maybe they need a little more time to feel comfortable. Some topics you might be familiar with, like if you know some anatomy because you're in some profession or you've done some studying in that already, maybe that asynchronous learning is a little easier for you. Maybe that homework is a little easier for you, or maybe like our friend earlier who mentioned Reiki, maybe the subtle body stuff is going to be a little easier for her. So there will be weekends where it feels like more, and there will be weekends where it feels like less. Ultimately, the homework is just to make sure that you are doing the internal work to really process what you're learning. So it's never meant to be debilitating in the sense that you feel like, oh my God, I'm never going to catch up, or like I can't make this deadline, or all consuming. It's really meant to make the material a part of your daily living, and that's what yoga is, right? It's how you move through the world, or how you sit still in it. So it's really meant to keep it sort of at the forefront of your mind as you progress through the training. So, you know, if you have a wedding to go to, or someone is sick and you need to care for them, of course there will be space for that. But you will have to do some work, I would say between 2 and 6 hours between the live weekends. Does that make sense? If I have to put a number on it, but don't quote it.
Thank you.
And just something else that I want to throw out there too is, you know, cultivating our own practice too, right? So if the more that you are actually practicing on your own, the smoother this will be, I think, too, for you throughout the training. And you know, you'll start to have that own curiosity, like on your mat too. So I think, you know, if you can begin a home practice, if you don't already have one, that can really help kind of jumpstart you into the program as well. Any questions? I'm sure you guys have questions. There's no silly question out there. If you want to know like background history of any one of us. Mary.
Okay, my question is in regards to the 108 hours of teaching. Where is that teaching going to take place? Like, is it a local yoga studio, or do we set up something, or is it your online classes, or how does that work?
Yeah, sure. So talking about some of the supplemental programs that we'll offer, one of those will be, of course, you know, talking with your mentor too. But throughout the training, you'll have the opportunity to work on SEVA project, right? So your service project back to Veterans Yoga Project. So you get to determine really what and where that will be, and to what capacity you'll kind of fulfill that. So you may not know right now, and, you know, we'll help guide you towards that. But yes, that could be, you know, teaching at a VA, a vet center, teaching at like a local, you know, American Legion, or offering a class, for instance, at, you know, a yoga studio. And we'll help you all throughout that process. Veterans Yoga Project has regional directors, state directors, area managers, and then of course you'll have your, you know, your mentor that you can stay in touch with, and, you know, all of us to help you as well with that. But really, that's really determinant on you. And I also know, and anyone else can speak to this, any other teacher, but we also have the online component to Veterans Yoga Project. And so there's opportunities there for new graduates to teach as well. Brianna, did you want to speak to the SEVA project, or?
Yeah, so I think you covered it. The idea is that so taking a step back, right? The idea of yoga as it began was a practice from one teacher to one student, right? It was this carrying on of knowledge, this carrying on of these philosophies and ideas. And the SEVA project that we incorporate as part of this training is very much that, where we invite for you as a teacher to carry this work forward into the veteran community. So like Jessica said, it doesn't have to be in any one studio, or it doesn't have to be in any one VA or vet center, but the idea is that you do carry the work forward. So Veterans Yoga Project, #1 guiding principle is support precedes action. So we are here to support you 100% of your journey. So as you go through the training and as you start to seek out venues or places where you might be able to teach, let us know and we can help you. We've all navigated the VA system as far as trying to teach there. We've all navigated yoga studios and trying to work with veterans in a community capacity. So we are here to make sure you succeed and not only feel successful or not only be successful, but feel successful. So we don't offer this save a work and just sort of like throw you out into the wilderness and say, good luck, have fun, right? Like we're here with you every step of the way as you craft your practice and as you craft your teaching in bringing this work forward.
So I just want to add, I have a graduate from our last class. Oh no, could you hear me? I have a graduate from our last class who I was just in touch with this week. He's been hitting brick walls. And this week, I'm actually going to be reaching out to all of the West Coast folks to try to help him. It's Jason. He has had a hard time getting into those sort of red tape scenarios. And so we're going to flip the script and give him a natural win where instead of trying to force the yoga into the places that don't have any, how can he be an asset to some of the programs that are already existing, and build his network out from there and offer up the yoga in general to his communities and see who wants it instead of sort of this cold calling, like forcing into different VAs. So if you're worried about that resistance, just know that like we're your mentor or your teacher in perpetuity. Jason could email me tomorrow. He can email me 10 years from now. I'm going to answer him because we're working together on that, right? So it could be in any of those sort of situations, and all of you will work in a different way. Some of you will have online communities. Some of you hate video cameras and hate Zoom, and the only reason you're on Zoom is to come to this call and to do this training, and you're done with Zoom. And so that's cool too, you know. There's a place for everyone, and we'll help you find it if you can't find it yourself.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm not sure. Is it Lila, or you can unmute yourself? I'm sorry, I'm probably mispronouncing your name.
Hi, thank you. No, it's Leela, and I couldn't figure out the little hand icon wave. Thank you so much, first of all, for hosting this, and then for taking all of our questions.
For being here.
So my question is, I noticed on the website there is a different set of, I guess, trainings that you offer called the Mindful Resilience for Trauma Recovery. So once we complete this yoga teacher training, are we then eligible to enroll in that as like an add-on, or how would that work?
Yeah, so I spoke a little bit about this earlier, that we do give you bits of this throughout the training. And then, so what we've done in the past 2 years is that we've completed the 200-hour, and then we've bookended it with that specific training as well that you guys can take.
Okay.
So it is, you know, any other yoga teacher, for instance, they don't have to come through the 200-hour, but they do have to go through that specific training in order to be a part of the Teachers Alliance. So for you guys, we encourage you to take that training, and we hope that you will, but you'll be a part of the Teachers Alliance upon, you know, completing the 200-hour, going through, you know, the other admin portion of, you know, Yoga Alliance and all of that stuff. So yes, to answer that question.
Great, thank you.
And just to tag on to that, just in case anybody is in the situation or is rewatching this later and is in the situation, if you've already been through our MRT program, that's normal too, because veterans can go to it before they've completed a 200-hour teacher training, or even if they don't have any plans to. So we have had students in our 200 hours who have already done the MRT, and that's absolutely fine. So to go to the MRT, you have to either be a veteran, a yoga teacher, or a clinician or a family member. You have to be involved in that process in some way so that it's not 100% new to you. There's some portion that you can speak from experience to. So we do get folks who have already gone through MRT, and that's great. It's not required. It's totally fine. We do hope that you'll go through it at some point or even assist them. And we do them virtually and in person. So we try to bring them to different regions in the country. And that could be one form of your seva, by the way, is sort of helping to organize the physical presence of a training in your region, and then assisting whoever the lead trainer is of that MRT in the future. So that's another great way that you could be doing your work in your space. I see there, Juliana said she attended MRT in South Carolina in June of 2022. Woo! Thanks. Welcome back, Juliana.
So I see it is 21:02 East Coast time. And we do like to end on time, right? So I think we set an hour for this. So what we'll do is, you guys have that email, right? I think everybody was in here from the very start. We'll shoot that email in the chat one more time, if that's okay. And you guys can ask any questions that you have between now and hopefully getting accepted. Remember, in order to go on to round 2, you do need to have that letter of recommendation. We talked about, you know, how it just needs to come from the heart from the other person. Again, any questions, please email us. You can also go to the website and there's contact information for Brianna, Rebecca, and myself as well. And I think Mike is, you guys have him, like, you know, you just press a button and there's Mike. But thank you guys so much for joining us. And just to make one quick admin correction, we are accepting 20 participants into the program. So 20, if anyone's watching this for later as well. If there's not any last closing words from Mike, Rebecca, or Brianna, I can just close us out with a couple breaths together. Okay, awesome. All right, so wherever you are, again, if it's accessible within your practice, feel free to close your eyes or just draw your gaze down towards the ground. And feel free to place your hands, if you'd like, over your heart, maybe one hand on the belly or both hands on the heart, and go back to that place of gratitude that you found earlier, that reason that brought you here today, and just thank it one more time, and maybe notice your heartbeat underneath your hands. Let's just take one deep breath here together. So inhale through the nose, inhale. Exhale out the mouth. Feel free to take that smile one last time as we did earlier, and you can blink the eyes open if they're closed. And thanks again so much for being here, and thanks again for your service, and we hope to see you in the coming weeks, months. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Everyone, thanks. I'm going to end the recording.
Thank y'all.